Hello again and welcome back to our program today. We're talking about immigration issues. Christine on the phone line indicated to us the plight that she's in, along with a lot of other people. Well-trained, you would say, Dr. Thambaraj?
She's obviously well-trained. She would be a great asset to Canadian healthcare system. I just came back from that area of the world. I know that the medical care there is of high quality. And just to link that with the report that you just showed in the newspaper, I'm sure Christine and many other doctors and nurses who are now immigrants in Canada who are not able to practice would be very well versed in treating tuberculosis because of the experience they've had in their home countries.
What's troubling to me, Sergio, is that we seem to be opening our borders to people that have diseases, but not to those who can cure them.
That's absolutely the irony of the situation. And the case with tuberculosis obviously is very troubling because Canada has the highest rate in the G8 of tuberculosis.
You're talking active tuberculosis
We're
here.
talking, yes. And as a matter of fact, to test positive for TB does not disqualify you medically from coming to Canada.
Now, this is highly contagious here.
It is, and people need to go for follow-ups, but the problem is that we also have a very significant refugee population that shows up at our borders without any type of documentation. They're just being let in to walk into society before they can be medically examined.
So is the problem more the immigrants, or is it more the refugees
the immigrants
coming in?
No, the problem is more with the refugees rather than the immigrants, and that's what people need to learn how to differentiate.
Yes.
The immigrants who come to this country are pre-screened medically before they can move in, whereas the refugees 99% of the time show up at the border or at the airport without any documentation. We don't even know who they are until they tell us, and the medical examination takes place much later. So they are in the country for a couple of months before anybody can find out whether or not they have any contagious diseases. And
so they can have anything.
They can have anything. They can
have leprosy.
Correct. And even if they have a medical condition, that does not disqualify them from remaining remaining in Canada and pursuing their refugee claim. They may be medically ineligible to become permanent residents for a while, but we cannot send them back if they are legitimate refugees. This is very troubling, actually. It is one of the Achilles heels of the system that is obviously being exploited very conveniently by all kinds of creative individuals. It's a very, very delicate situation, and obviously the balancing act is always between letting in conventional refugees who are legitimate and these individuals who try to exploit the system and just come to Canada for medical care. Another thing that I have to tell you is that I have seen many cases over the years in which parents are coming in and claiming refugee status because the sponsorship of parents takes very long time, and if they have a medical condition, so they are the children are bringing them in just to dump them into the healthcare system, which is absolutely tragic, and it's an abuse of process. I have had cases in which children have brought their parents and who needed bypass surgery, who needed knee replacements and things like that, all of which are very serious and very costly procedures for us. And at the same time, we have these long lines in the healthcare system. But there are always going to be people who take advantage of the situation.
And they get to the front of the line.
Not necessarily, but depending on the gravity of the situation, obviously, they can be. If somebody needs bypass and is urgent, they will get it. And somebody's going to get bumped because we're not creating more doctors and operating rooms to treat that, right?
That's right.
It's a very serious situation. But I have to tell you that in general terms, the pre-screening of immigrants is pretty good. The problem is that there is a political judgment being made as to what level of medical inadmissibility are we willing to tolerate as a society. So if we have people with active TB, we have made a political decision that they are okay to come into society as long as they report, which is basically based on an honor system, I have to tell you. But same thing with HIV. is the same story. We have made a political decision to allow people with HIV into the country. And we have established an honor system for these individuals to report. Wow. And that's where the Achilles heel comes into place. Now, with the medical testing per se is very good and very thorough, and people go through full physical. That's how we know people have TB, because they have to go for x-rays, and we know they have scar tissue. And the doctors know who they are. And that's not where the problem lies. The problem lies with a political decision that has been made as to what threshold they need to cross in order to be admissible or inadmissible for medical reasons. And the irony of the situation, as you correctly pointed out, is that we are letting in the people with the disease, and we're not letting in the people who are able to treat the disease. Because I bet you money that if anybody shows up at our doorstep and it's a refugee claimant with a case of malaria, it's going to take a very long time until a Canadian doctor can recognize the symptoms of malaria. When was the last time a Canadian doctor saw a case of malaria?
Not only that, something else I want to address too. Another article came up quite recently saying that with the problems we're seeing now with the numbers of physicians in our country practicing, they're becoming very careful who they take on as patients, apparently even seeking the healthiest patients and refusing the ones that are in dire need of a physician. Now, before we go for a break and come back and discuss that, let's go now to Oscar on line 1. Hello, Oscar, you're on the line.
Yes, hello, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Thanks for getting my call. So I'm from Hamilton, and I see you in the screen right now. And I want to make some comments about some professionals from different countries, especially for the Spanish community who live here in Hamilton. They have a lot of trouble to recognize their credential. Engineers, doctors, accountants, every
area
professional from different countries, especially for the Spanish community in Hamilton, they have a lot of trouble, especially because they don't want the government, Ontario government and federal government doesn't want to recognize their credential. I don't understand why. Especially for the doctors, for example, when everybody has complained about the system, they don't have family doctor enough to everybody. But anyway, I know a lot of doctors and dentists, they're driving taxis right now.
Wow.
So, and it's hard for me to understand when they receive a promise in your country, in your back country, and they say, oh, okay, you apply, you're accepted, you're a permanent resident, line immigrant, so go there and welcome. And you arrive here and you receive a welcome between brackets.
Oscar, thanks for calling in. A travesty. We're going to go for a break. We'll return after this. Stay tuned.